Hello everyone, welcome back to this little workshop that we have today. My name is Savvy and today we're going to talk about how you can feminize or masculinize your voice and also androgynize it or take it in any gender direction that you might want to take it. So, first of all, I need to talk a little bit about vocal health and some things to take into account before doing any extensive voice training, alright? First and foremost, always make sure that you're hydrated. Have some water to drink nearby whenever you're going to do some voice work. Another thing to take into account is to try and avoid behaviors of voice that can be very drying, because a dry voice can lead very easily to damage. You know, your voice kind of works like little flaps of flesh. You call them vocal cords or vocal folds, perhaps. You've heard the term. And if they're really dry and not well hydrated, they are going to have to vibrate anyways, really, really quickly. And that friction is going to cause some vocal damage. So to prevent that damage, avoid smoking, drinking, when you're practicing. At the end of the day, your body is yours, but not body autonomy reigns supreme. So you do what you'd want to do, but try to work around these things to make sure that you have the best setting for your voice practice. Another thing that I should mention is vocal warm-ups. If you're going to go and run a marathon, you're not going to just wake up and just go run. That's just not going to work. You're going to want to stretch your muscles, your legs muscles, etc., right? Here with voice, it's kind of a similar thing. If you want to get started using your voice, you gotta warm it up just like any other muscle. To do this, we use some kind of exercises. They are called SOVTEs, or semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. You don't need to know the term. All you need to understand is that these are sounds that you produce that will be easier on your vocal folds, much more easy than normal words or just speaking in general. These sounds can be sounds like a Z sound, Z, or a J sound. It can also just be an O sound. Just make an O with your mouth, O, right? And then you want to move around doing maybe some scales or some slides. O, or a full slide. O. Just make sure that when you do the slides that you don't try and go directly for the high end or the low end of your pitch. You don't want to directly jump into what is challenging in your voice. This is just to warm up your voice, right? Remember what I said about hydration? Well, when you drink water, it just doesn't directly hydrate the vocal folds. That's not how it works. If it would, you would probably choke on water and that would go in your lungs. That's not a good idea, and that's why your body doesn't do that. No, instead, the way that your vocal folds are being hydrated is through the blood flow or the bloodstream. So the little blood vessels in the vocal folds are going to give you all the hydration you want and need. So drink some water, something like 10 to 15 minutes before doing any practice. Do some gentle warm-ups to encourage your body to bring that hydration and all the nutrients that your vocal folds need to recuperate, and then you're good to go. That being said, let's do some warm-up together, shall we? Okay, so what you're going to do is, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to do a scale on a certain sound, and then I'm going to count 3, 2, 1, and then I want you to do it. Okay? Let's try this out. 3, 2, 1. Very good. Awesome. Now let us try a scale instead. 3, 2, 1. Nice. It's Always beautiful with all the pink that we have. It's amazing. I love it. Anyways, this is kind of exercises that you want to do when you warm up your voice. You know, just like some gentle sounds that help our voice work. Okay? Okay, so also one other thing that I should mention, I see many people here, is please do stay muted during the course of this session. I know sometimes y'all don't notice, so I'm just making sure that everyone is on the same page here. But you will have the chance to move up on stage to practice some feminization or masculinization of your voice. I will be taking 2 masc voices and 2 femme voices today, as per usual. I'm saying this for the new ones. All right, awesome. So that being said, let me explain a little bit how voice works, right? Like, what is voice? Well, voice is kind of like based off the PSF model. It stands for Power Source Filter Model. The power is the air that you have in your lungs, right? You push a lot of air, and that will travel up this whole like system of tubes, right? But if you close the vocal folds, right? So the little flaps that you have in your throat, they're going to start to vibrate thanks to that air that you give it. So that air is going to become right? It's going to create a sound, which we call the source sound. And then the most interesting part about voice happens here in the filter. Because once you've produced a sound, thanks to the air of your lungs and the closure of your vocal folds, you will get to have that sound resonate and bounce around in here the nasal cavity, the mouth cavity, and also the pharynx, which is basically the space above your larynx and behind your mouth. That's just technical stuff, so we're not going to bother about this just now. All you need to know is that the filter size or the resonance, as you might already have heard the word some other places before, is what is going to change completely the perception of someone's gender in their voice. So if you have like a very small space, you're going to sound very feminine. Instead, if you make that space really big,
then you're gonna sound very hollow, very masculine, right? So
the idea is if you want to feminize your voice, make that space smaller, and if you want to masculinize it, make that space bigger, okay? All right. That's kind of how voice works, like a very brief summary of it. So now, get your water. Maybe you can practice along if you want with your muted mic. And now I'll be taking someone up on stage who wants to work on, let's switch things up a little bit, masculinizing their voices. Anyone interested in making their voice sound more masculine, perhaps? If you are interested in moving up stage, raise your hand or jump in place. Not that many? Okay, I see Bleeding Lily. All right, come up on stage. Come on, come on, come on. Applause for Bleeding. Hello there.
Hi.
You didn't expect to be on stage, did you? Not today.
No, I did not.
All right, we got 10 minutes starting now. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Ready or not, here we go. All right, there we go. So, 10 minutes starting now. Hello, Bleeding Lily. Bleed. How do I call it? How do I call you?
You can call me Liam.
Okay, nice to meet you, Liam. So, have you already done any voice practice before? Any vocal exercises or anything of the likes?
Yes, I've been actually watching the VODs of this.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Awesome. Have you found the exercises to be helpful? Have you seen some changes in your voice? Yeah. Tell me a bit about it.
I wish I could show you, but my exact problem with my voice is that I am unable to control it when I get anxious or excited or try to put any emotion in it, actually. So if I go monotone with the exercise, I adore the whispering exercise where you go
right.
But I am unable to like. I can go pretty low even, but then I get emotional. I experience feelings, and then my voice dies and becomes femme again, and I just don't know how to deal with that at the moment.
Okay,
Right now.
okay, cool. Okay, I got you. So, like, this is a very common question, and this is not just for voice masculinization. It also happens a lot in voice feminization. Although we humans tend to be a lot more emotional at higher pitches. So yeah, like, it will be harder at first. You might want to perhaps like prepare yourself for like these situations where your voice might become like something more emotional, like maybe you're surprised, maybe you are sad or angry. Like these are different emotions that can come up in your life, right? So you can try and act them up, like the same way that when you practice your voice, you're just acting speaking, in a way. Like you're kind of like getting a more granular feel for your voice. You're getting your hands into it rather than, letting your voice override and like just take over like the whole behavior. So in your case, it's a bit hard to answer. Like I can say like there's an easy answer to this, but like have you maybe tried giving yourself some time to practice whilst recording yourself? Perhaps even trying to act a situation, like using like a little script that you can write for yourself. Like, what's a situation where I am upset? Can I try and pretend that I am upset? If I can do this, can I try and masculinize that behavior? All right. So that's kind of like the main idea. Otherwise, if like these are emotions, right? Like they're sometimes out of our control. So I understand that your voice can take over. Voice is not just like a stiff instrument. It plays directly with our brain. So like we always interface with our psychology and our voice at the same time. So I guess it's just like getting over stage fright. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Yeah.
Never thought about it in a way of acting it out. That sounds fun. It's like
Well,
theater.
isn't voice training all acting? I mean, okay.
I guess so.
Like, okay, when you first learned to speak, weren't you trying to act like you were a natural speaker?
I guess so, right?
It's kind of like that, like you learn words first and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. I guess that sound is, I get it. Okay, so maybe you can like try and build times to practice. Like, maybe like set 5 to 10 minutes a day. Like, I'm not asking you to like work a whole hour. That's not going to really be productive. Like, you want this to be like some manageable bits of time that won't have you feel dysphoric, if that's something that you feel about your voice, or that won't be like too time consuming, because otherwise you're just going to give it up, So yeah. Have you ever like taken the time to sit down and record your voice and then listen back to it?
Yeah, I do that all the time. It's the only thing that kind of helps me understand if I make any progress, because like when you make progress, you can't really hear it at all. But then I compare my regular voice to my deepened voice, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did something.
Yeah, there's a lot of difference between this voice and this voice, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, well then, why don't we try and listen a little bit to that voice and then go ahead and read some sentences, trying maybe to get into those emotional situations. Well, I'm not asking you to become emotional, Liam, but I'm just asking you to like try and put yourself in a situation, if that's okay with you. Is that cool?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So then in that case, what we'll be doing is just set first our voice to become more masculine. So mimic after me. Ah. All right. Nice. Okay, you're here. Now let us go to the lowest comfortable pitch that you can do. Okay, cool. Yeah. around D sharp 3, perhaps. Do you actually know kind of like your pitch range or not so much?
When I tried to use the app, it just bounced all over the place. So
It's kind of normal if, okay, so things to take into account is the app will only take into account what we call periodic sounds. So if you do something like a or like a these are aperiodic sounds. They are not cycles of vocal fold vibration that is periodic enough to be perceived as like a sound, right? Like even if I do something like oh, even if it's slow, it's gonna like pick it up at a really wrong pitch. So that's why I said comfortable, like stable sound, you know? Oh. Try it out.
I guess that's the most comfortable I can get. I get into the vocal fry territory after
That's okay. So I see that you're getting all the way down to D sharp 3, which is really good. Like it's already starting to get like really into mask territory in terms of pitch. Now that we have this pitch, okay, can you mimic it like really easily? Like oh, oh. Here, a little bit higher. Oh, oh. Try this. Oh, 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 oh. Little attacks. Oh. Okay, now try this. Oh. Try it out. Nice. Okay, very good. Oh, okay, great. Now, what we want to do is bring the resonance down a little bit. You know, make that sound a lot darker, right? So, with the whispers, you already know how to do this, right? So, let's take a bright ah sound, make it into a dark ah sound. Or you can say cat, 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 cat. Give it a try. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Yes.
That's hard.
Let's do this together. Let's just say cats. Okay. Now. Yeah. Nice, very good. Can you say cat, bad, fat cat? Bad, fat cat. No, the cat is not specifically fat. Okay.
I was
Careful there because
Final Fantasy.
Is that what it is from? I don't know. Okay, let's actually get ourselves some sentences practice. Yeah, there you go. We have that mad brat sat on that flat mat. Yes, reading. Okay, so let's try this. Right? Careful, you're vocalizing it. Yes, you want to make it a whisper. Or cats, 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 cats. Cats, cats, cats.
Sorry. It's hard. I can't hear you.
I was muted. Sorry about this. So as I said, yeah, like as you said before, like your voice tends to go like more feminine when you are like emotional, like here you're up on stage. Maybe this is not the best setting. I've heard you do very good things, and sometimes like that was not like a super, how do you say this, super consistent behavior, right? Like I've heard you do like get a really dark one, then I ask you to repeat it, and you went brighter again, which is fine, right? So what I would recommend that you do most importantly is really practice jumping directly from a bright whispered ah sound to a dark whispered ah sound, right? So that you don't always have to do right? So it's easier to do for like longer practices, or at least learn that behavior first before moving on to like doing other types of practices. So yeah, I think this is really important to do so that you can like get kind of like a landmark for your voice, right? Like you kind of know this is bright and this is dark. And you know it by sound, but most importantly, your body knows how to do it, right? So definitely try and practice that a bit more. And I'm sure you will get there in no time. Match that with, and again, with consistency, right? Like I had to go down to a D3, which is quite low, right? But then when I asked you to go low again, you kind of like were capping at F3, which is like a little bit higher. So I think that there is like a lot of potential here. You can match the D3 and a dark resonance. To give you an example, this is a D3. And if you match that with like a dark resonance,
it can sound like this, and you can say, that mad brat sat on that flat mat.
right? So definitely there is a lot of results that you can get. Oh, and of course, if you make the vocal folds a bit thicker,
That mad brat sat on that flat mat.
and get an even boomier, more textured voice. Yeah?
So impressive. Yes.
You can do it. I believe in you. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Liam, I'm sorry, our time is over here, but you know, there'll be other workshops. Maybe you'll have another chance to move up on stage. Do take care of yourself. Best of luck practicing, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Applause for Liam. No EPs today. Oh, I guess it's too late now. All right. Okay, good. Now, I'll be asking someone who wants to learn to feminize their voices. Anyone interested here in the audience? I see this person here, Scully Omen. Are you interested in feminizing your voice? Yes? That's a yes? Okay, move up on stage. All right, applause for Omen.
Bravo.
The Yikis are back. I'm happy. Okay. All right, so, hi, Omen.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we got 10 minutes starting now. So, what is it that you'd like us to work on today? I already hear a lot of feminization in your voice.
Yeah, I'm in speech therapy.
Oh, wow.
Well, like,
Okay.
But the classes have been helping, like you and Professor Rachel and all that. I
That's
suppose
awesome.
it's
Super
just
glad to hear that.
yeah. I was shown resonating out of my mouth. I just kind of like I mentally think of it as just like speaking properly. So even if I lose my pitch or something, I try and just obsessively just keep my resonance here all the time, on my cheeks and all that. Yeah, and
What does
I'm gonna
keeping
be
resonance in your cheek and mouth? I'm a bit confused here.
like
You're
what
probably
I call it
talking
masking.
about. Oh, okay, I see. So, like, are you coming from
The
like a
filter.
classical singing background, or?
I mean I know some stuff. I'm not really thoroughly coming from the background. It's just like I've heard some things 'cause I like music.
Okay, have you had like any SLPs before, or do you do any singing on your own? I kind of want to know what your level is and like, your
Kind
knowledge
of
on this.
kind of like casually like I know some singing things, but it's a little bit different than just like regular speaking, I suppose. I don't know.
Okay, so I just want to really quickly say something about masking. Whilst I don't have anything personally against it, I believe that it's something that you might not want to like tell people for like in terms of like pedagogy. Mostly because you and I and everyone here in the audience don't share the same anatomy. And so what is sympathetic vibrations? This is what you're describing as masking, right? It's the feeling of vibration in your face or your nose or your cheeks. I even had a student once who was like, I feel it in my eyes. And I'm like, I feel it in my toes. And I mean, it doesn't mean much, but if it means something to you, if it's something that you can use to latch your voice onto, it's great. But generally speaking, I will try to use like more terms that like are going to talk about like the size of the vocal tract. This is like the physical aspect of it. But by sound, you can already hear the resonance. No need to specifically track like a vibration feeling that maybe you will never find in your body, right? So I just had to say this because masking is like a bit of an issue in the trans community when it comes to voice training. So I had to talk about that.
Oh,
Anyhow,
okay. I got you.
yeah. It's okay.
I know
It's cool,
therapy is
cool.
personalized and all. Yeah.
Of course. So whatever you do for you, right? So you
Of
can
course.
get your resonance to be brighter, right? So you can get your voice to be brighter and more femme. So I already heard like a very femme voice when you came up on stage. What was that about? And
Well,
why don't you talk with it?
if I like completely let go, I'm just kind of like here, I guess. But it's
Okay,
like
but mhm.
it's hard to actually stretch down. Like I'm getting used to being higher.
Yeah, well, that's great. Isn't that the objective?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. So then what is the main issue with it? Like you can get there. So is there like a level
Oh,
of
it's
polish that
staying
you
there.
lack?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just kind of getting it like
Mm.
fit to place because the whole goal is kind of like permanent voice, I suppose. That's why I kind of like
Yeah.
mentally think of it as like speaking properly because if I fall back on anything, like no one hears me at all, and it's kind of nice to kind of know all these things because then I'll kick it in. I'll be like, oh, I really said this, and then it's like suddenly I'm heard.
Okay, so why don't we do some reading practice real quick? I'm gonna
Okay.
give you some. Oh, intonation should be good. All right, so why don't you set to your voice? Can you try and mimic after me? Ah, very good. Can you say that? Sorry. Pat that cat.
Pat that cat.
Okay, very good. And now can you try and read that sentence and say, hello, good morning, how are you?
Hello, good morning, how are you?
Great. Now this was monotonous. Let us make it more melodical, more intonated. Hello, good morning. Try this out.
Hello, good morning.
Okay,
Hello,
so
good morning.
Okay, so what we have here right now is, you might have already guessed from the slide, is a more masculine intonation. So what you have here, hello, good morning, it's kind of like going downwards. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can definitely talk just with that downwards intonation. So, hello, good morning, how are you? I'll have a cup of coffee, please. I forgot to take my hormones. Are you really sure about that? And you can always go down and still sound fairly feminine. But you might want, since you want like to make your voice more feminine, kind of check the most boxes that you can to make your voice sound more feminine. So intonation is one of those components that you can be working on. So what you can try and do here is think of pitch like a slide, like try to visualize it, it's like a line, and if it goes up, right? So now, if you say hello, good morning, it's going to be like hello, good morning, right? Feminine voices tend to intonate not by increasing the loudness or the vocal fold mass of their voices, but rather by elongating vowels and kind of giving it a pitch contour or like an emphasis on pitch, right? So where like a mask voice might say,
Hello, good morning.
right?
Good morning.
Right? A feminine voice might say more, hello, good morning, right? Like a little bit more melody in it. And maybe that's something that you might be lacking in your voice. I'm just giving you the tips that I think are
Fair.
most important
I
here.
do get practice at work, of course.
Awesome. So now let's try this. Match my voice. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Very good. Another way down. Hello.
Hello.
Careful there on the way down. You had like a little voice crack. Hello.
Yeah, I heard it.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello.
So,
Oh gosh. Okay. A little
okay, so the
crack
difficult part
area.
about this is that when we go for higher pitches, we use a different type of mechanism. The vocal folds quite literally vibrate in a different pattern. And so what's interesting about that is that if you go to a really high pitch, you're going to get like a much lighter sound. This is like very akin to a type of sound that in classical singing is called falsetto. You probably have heard the term before, or even head
Or
voice,
head
perhaps,
voice.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say head
Right,
voice.
exactly. So, like scientifically, it's called M2 for just like the second mechanism, the one that's just above M1, the modal voice, the one that you and I are using to speak, right? But
Oh,
some
okay.
voices tend to kind of go between M1 and M2 and kind of like just move out, like in and out of that range. I can say, hello, good morning, how are you? Which is all in M1. Or I can say, hello, good morning, how are you? Which is all in M2. Or I can do a mix of both. Hello, good morning, how are you? How
So it's
are
completely normal.
you?
Okay.
Right? So I don't know what you mean by that, but whatever you might think about that is that you are allowed to use M2, and I actually believe that it can bring a lot to your voice. Like it just makes your voice like have a lot more range, you know? So
Yeah.
here, when you have the voice crack happens, it's because there is this change of pattern that's a little bit too strong, too rough, right? So you want to definitely practice going between your M1 and M2 range, you know, up and down. Ooh. So that you get like a smooth descent rather than a ooh, right?
Yeah, the hard crack. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So to fix that issue, what we're going to want to do is work with the vocal fold mask. Has the slide loaded for you?
Oh yeah, I see this. So what's going on here?
What's going on here? So basically, that's another property of voice feminization and masculinization that I have not talked about yet. So basically, a feminine voice is one that has a rather high pitch, a high resonance, and really soft vocal folds, like really thin vocal folds, as to create a much more smooth sound, right? If you had thick vocal folds in your femme voice, then you would probably sound more like this, a lot more buzzy sound, right? Which is not the case. So something that you have to take into account is that the M2 mechanism tends to be a lot more thinner than its M1 counterpart. That's not to say that your M1 range, your normal range, if you will, is always thick, right? Like I can have like a thick expression of M1, or I can have a really soft expression of M1, which really makes or break the voice in some cases, right? So you don't want to be extremely thin all the time. You don't want to be extremely soft all the time, right?
Oh.
Because like if you speak
Okay.
like that all the time, no one's gonna hear you. You know, like you're just not gonna be really
fair.
loud. So you kind of like want to find a balance there. And this is where my point between the M1 range and the M2 range makes a lot of sense. The M2 range is going to be a lot more soft, a lot more light, going to make a lot more use of that thinner sound. Whereas the M1 range is going to make you use, generally speaking, and this is not entirely true, like I'm making like a very short version because we have like so little time, but this like M1 version here is going to like be more represented in the M1 range. And so when you go down from M2 to M1, chances are that you're going from like a really light sound, and you go over that gap, going very quickly to a thicker sound, right? So to avoid that, you can try and make that M2 sound thicker as you go down. So instead of having oh. You would have oh, and back to 1, right? And the other way around is also true. You can make your voice be a little bit thinner as you go up. Oh, and I'm an M2, right? So yeah, there you go. But as you have heard from the alarm, we are already done here for today.
Thank you so much. It was very helpful. I got a picture real quick, so I'll look at it later. Thanks again.
No worries, no worries. You're very welcome, Omen. Thank you for coming up on stage. Best of luck with your practice. Remember, try to go for a soft, maybe a slightly thicker, slightly louder voice as you go down from higher pitches to avoid the break from happening, or to prevent the break from happening. And the same goes.
Oh yeah, I was doing the complete opposite. Thank you.
It's okay, no worries. You're welcome, Omen. Best of luck with your voice practice, and see you maybe another time.
See you. Thank you.
Applause for Omen.
Well done, Omen!
Yippee! Okay. Now I will be taking a second person who wants to learn how to masculinize their voices. Who is interested? Okay, I see Orson. Are you interested in masculinizing your voice? Is that why you're jumping in place?
Yeah, I don't play VR chat that often.
Wait, I can't hear you. You're so far.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't play VR chat that often, so I don't know how to wave.
You know how to wave? Oh, okay, it's okay. Just come up on stage. Come on. Oh, you're so quiet, though. Alright, applause for Urson. You were kind of hard to miss. Oh god, you are tall. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, but I can hear you perfectly. That's awesome. Okay, we got 10 minutes starting now. Alright. Hello.
All right.
Welcome.
Hello.
You already have a what a deep voice. What are you looking for?
So this is how I sound when I'm streaming, and when I'm doing voice auditions.
Okay.
This is
Are
how
you a
I
voice
sound
actor?
when I kind of I'm training. I'm studying with Kira Buckland right now.
Okay, cool, awesome.
So this is how I sound like when I relax my voice a little bit. So you can kind of hear that little bit of fem still, and that's where I'm trying to get my voice away from. I'm trying to sound more like this when I'm kind of flexing my vocal cords, where it sounds a lot more deeper.
Right. Okay. So like your voice might be a bit more up here, when you're relaxing, and when you're trying to speak, I guess your streaming voice was it? You're a little bit
Yep.
lower, down here, right? Okay. Cool. So then, what's the issue? Do you struggle to naturalize your voice, or make it more natural and more how do you say, more stable, more
Yeah, I
more
would say
accessible?
my
or-
that I would say it's really hard for me to remember not to just relax too much when I'm in a more comfortable situation versus when I'm talking to a friend or something, or if I'm in a drive-through, you kind of turn on that customer service voice versus
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it kind of feels like I go more femme when I do it that way versus right now when I'm talking and I'm being conscious of trying to stay as deep as I can without
Okay,
sounding
nice.
a little too fake, I guess, when I'm doing it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Depends what kind of fakeness you get from your voice. Is it fakeness that comes from the voice being too dark, too hollow, kind of
Sounding really this, really deep, this is not
exactly.
rich, super realistic voice, yeah, you're
Yeah.
missing.
Well, that's
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my problem right there. I feel like sometimes I sound like that.
Yeah, sometimes you sound kind of you're yawning all the time. Yeah, that's the issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's it.
I got you. Okay, so then this directly ties in with what we have talked about before. I don't know where to face. Yes, here. I would have pointed here, but you're so in front of it. Anyways,
sorry.
This is. It's okay. So this is basically the same slide that I've seen before. So the animated version of it, but this is a more detailed version of it. This is kind of what your vocal folds look like when you see them from the side, okay? And what's important about this is that when you are getting that hollow voice, right? When you're like
talking like this and like it sounds like really hollow instead of like really full and buzzy and has like a lot of presence, right?
it's mostly due to your vocal folds being really thin, right? So like you're not bunching them enough. It's kind of like a muscle. You can't really remove vocal fold mass. You can't really add vocal fold mass. But, you know, it's kind of like the state of your muscle when you flex your arm, right? Like when you don't flex it, it's super small. When you flex it, it seems bigger than it actually is. We're kind of like doing a similar thing with our voice, in the sense that
If like you speak really softly,
you're not engaging the muscles a lot. It's like
yoga, right? Whereas if you like make your vocal folds really thick, it's kind of like lifting weights. It's like really, really heavy.
now at high pitches and at high resonances, it generally doesn't make a lot of sense. So for this, we want to practice at low pitches. So like, let us take a pitch that's quite low. What's the lowest comfortable pitch that you can go for?
Ooh, I don't know actually. I think I haven't practiced my pitch as much as I should. But I'd say somewhere
It's
around
alright.
here is probably the lowest.
Okay, so you're speaking.
Let's say probably around here is the lowest. Do 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 do.
Okay, let's try this instead. Match my pitch.
Oh
Oh,
oh.
oh.
Okay, very good.
Oh,
And you can try and take that lower.
oh,
Oh, sorry, that was subharmonics.
oh,
Okay, so let's stop here.
oh,
We can already like change a lot of the texture of the sound. So match my pitch.
oh,
Oh.
Oh, you're a little bit higher. Let's start here.
oh,
Cool. Now let's try this. Give me like little attacks.
oh, 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 oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, 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 ooh. That is a weird
Okay.
feeling. Wow.
What that feeling is the feeling of your vocal folds closing each time you do the.
Oh, 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 oh.
They kind of do this kind of pattern. Well, of course, in between those, they vibrate really quickly, several hundred times per second. Don't worry, it's normal. You will learn. So, like,
Oh, 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 oh.
is a great way to get your vocal folds to close more, and so to keep more adduction. So just more closure, right? More open vocal folds tend to be more breathy. Right? We lose a lot of the volume, and it's really hard to convert air that is escaping your mouth into a powerful sound. So we want to make sure the vocal folds are really closed, okay?
Oh,
Okay? Now, let us try to make the sound really thick. So, give me that O again, and let's try and pretend that you're like lifting something really heavy. If you have a wall nearby, or I don't know, like I have my desk, for example, here, I can try and like lift it. I'm gonna fail. Like,
oh.
right? And kind of like trying to trigger that muscle effort, right? Kind of transmits to the rest of my body and including to my voice. Have you ever been to the gym, or at least have you seen people at the gym? They're like, they push things like, they have this sound, right? That's the sound of a strong increase of vocal fold mass, right? So we try and achieve that so that we can counteract
That like hollow sound, because thicker vocal folds match with like a hollow sound result in a more full voice. Oh, and like now you have a more full voice. Would you say that's a fake voice? Well, given that you probably hear a lot of me being like,
up here.
sure, this sounds fake, but
You get the idea.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Actually, I want to show you a different slide to make it a bit more clear. Imagine that your voice is like a glass of water. If you are doing a masculine voice, let's say one where your voice is really soft, then you have thin vocal folds, right? So you have,
oh, like a really soft voice.
but then you also have like a really dark resonance, like your size is really big. You've dropped your Adam's apple all the way down there.
Like now you sound like, I don't know, like an orc, like zug zug or whatever. More work, you know? And
Now the glass of water is really empty, right? Like it's not that the glass is empty, it's just that you've made your throat, the throat space so big that it's hard now to fill it with enough water, enough sound. So that's what increasing the vocal fold mass is here for. You can go from that hollow sound and increase the vocal fold mass.
oh, and thus have like a much more powerful boomy voice that sounds a lot more natural, right? Like as opposed to a really hollow, soft voice, right?
That's the idea. So try that out. Give me the low pitch that you have. Start soft, and then let's try and press it. Yeah?
Gotcha. So it's kind of like with that straining that you mentioned. So I would go, oh, kind of like that.
Yes, that.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the sound you want to go for, right? So you want to match that with...
You want to really make sure that you don't let your resonance go back up, right? Because if you do that, you're going to have...
Oh, you're gonna end up on like an overfull buzzy voice, right? Because that's a mixture of a lot of vocal fold mass in a really small space. It creates that like buzzy sound. It's like overfilling.
It's like you can hear the sound frequencies spilling out, right? Because the space is so small. So you have to really make sure that
You stay really dark.
you know how to go for a dark resonance? For like a really big size?
I don't actually.
Okay, what we use here is whispers. So when you take a whisper, your vocal folds, they're not vibrating, right? So the whole point of using whispers is to just hear resonance dissociated from the vocal folds. So can you give me a whisper and say, pat that cat?
Pat that cat.
Awesome. Now take that pat and make it really dark. Pat, pat,
Pat, pat, pat.
try it out.
Pat, 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 pat.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay,
that's-
so you
yeah,
went from
I feel that same flex.
to exactly, you feel that flex. And so if you were to just hold that pat, you would have
Pat, pat that cat, which is like a much darker version of saying pat that cat, right?
it's like, you know, I'm patting a cat but like in the shadows, you know. So like that's the idea. So now you have like a dark pat the cat sound. You feel that flex. You feel the Adam's apple go down. Once you've done this, try the following. Pat, pat,
Pat. Try to go back into full voice.
right? Give that a try.
Gotcha. Thank you. Oh, you.
Yeah.
I heard the timer, so I thought that was your homework for me. All right, let's try
It's okay.
that.
It's okay. Okay, yeah. Let's. I just want to try this really quickly so you can like feel it for yourself and hear yourself do it. So yeah, let's.
Gotcha.
Pat, pat.
Pat. Really dark pat.
Pat, pat, pat.
Nice. And now.
Pat, pat. Kind of like
Right.
that.
So now you have this. Yeah, that sound, right? So now we want to try and make the vocal folds thicker from there.
And like get a more full sound.
Try it out.
Sorry. It's so hard to do. Wow, that's like a feeling I haven't felt before.
That's the homework. Like, cultivate that feeling, try it out for yourself. You'll notice that the more you practice going dark with whispers, the more you're going to unlock things about your voice. Chances are you'll sound a lot more masculine with that.
right? And then once you found that like kind of goofy, hollow voice, you can then add more vocal fold mass whilst keeping a low pitch. And then thicken it up. And then thus have like a more full voice. Yeah?
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, best of luck with your practice. I didn't know that you were like super new to this, so like I didn't touch on some basics here. I do recommend that you watch perhaps the former VODs or ask questions in the voice training chat in the Discord.
Gotcha.
If something is missing. So yeah. Best of luck with practice. You already got a wonderful mask voice. Keep it up.
Thank you.
I'll see how it's. I want to see how it looks like in the future, or sounds like more
Of
like.
course.
All right.
Thank you.
Applause for Orson.
Well done, Erson.
Okay. Now for the last person of today, it will be voice feminization. Are you interested? I can't see the name. There's like a window. Is it Naloi?
Craven Nallo.
Do you want to learn to feminize your voice?
Yes, please.
All right, come up on stage. Come on. Applause for Trevor. Yeah. I got it, guys. What's your name? Awesome. Hey, hello, welcome. We got the 10 minutes starting now. Welcome. So, do you want to learn to feminize your voice? Is that right?
Yes, please.
All right. Have you already started somewhere, like done some exercises?
Yes. The problem that arises is it just comes across as
either it's just really fake and it's just like too breathy, or just too much up here. And I tried mixing up with the musicality, and it just still sounds like, I don't know, sounds kind of like a cartoon character instead of just.
I totally get you.
Yeah.
So the first voice that you showed me was like kind of like this breathier voice. The second one was more of a buzzy voice, an overfull voice. This is basically what's happening when you have a bright resonance, but you still have the vocal fold mass from like a mask voice, right? So typically it's good news for resonance, because if you get that
Overfull buzzy voice in the first place, that means that you have effectively made your vocal tract smaller.
So that's good news. Now, what's missing here is the vocal fold mass. I didn't know this lesson was going to be about vocal fold mass a lot, but here we are. So big focus on vocal fold mass today. Now, what you might have, just like me, you have been exposed to testosterone. I dare assume.
I was assigned male at birth.
Yeah. So you were also assigned with the
Curse of testosterone.
But that doesn't mean. That doesn't mean that you can't
Although
do
it is
anything
fun
about it,
singing.
right?
I love singing
definitely.
bass. It's fun. I
It's
just
so
I just
awesome.
want to get more in touch with my feminine side.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it.
Yeah.
So, how can we make your voice softer? Right? Like, we need to learn to make your vocal folds be able to vibrate on a more thin pattern. How do we do this? So, first of all, that we need to talk about is how the voice works, right? So, I already was touching up on this before, but based on the power source filter model, what you can see is that we have the power, the air we push, then the source is how the vocals vibrate, etc., and the filter is the size. Your filter is great. Like you already have like a really bright sound. Your source is a lot maybe too thick, right? So we have to talk about how the source works. Well, the vocal folds, they vibrate. But if they vibrate perhaps because of too much air, either you end up breathy or you end up buzzy, right? And it's exactly those two things that you had as issues, right? One is either I end up being like really breathy and like up there, like really breathy, or I'm really buzzy and I like kind of like get stuck between those two voices. The breathy voice that you showed me is a very common response to trying to reduce the vocal fold mass, right?
Yeah.
What you have to understand is that vocal fold mass is not vocal fold closure. So you can have your vocal folds more or less closed, right? If they're really open, you get a whisper. If they're really closed, you get a creaky sound, right? But this is kind of like where I want to show you this gradient, is that more often than not, we want a balanced voice, right? And you achieve a
Absolutely.
balanced you achieve a balanced voice, and by balanced I mean specifically. This is just a term that I coined for this, but a balanced voice is kind of it's okay. The balanced voice is
Sorry.
kind of like the perfect mixture of how much you close the vocal folds and how much air you bring to it, right? So if I use my voice and I just do it like this, I am in a balanced sound. If I close the vocal folds more, then I get and then my voice stops. If I open it more, right? So with the same output of air, with like a steady airflow, you can get like various different sounds, right? From whispery to creaky. But since you're dealing with a lot of vocal fold mass and or breathiness, what I assume is happening is that you're probably pushing too much air from your lungs than needed for your voice, right? So I want you to try this. Try and match my
All right.
pitch here.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, great. Now try and make that sound really thick.
Oh.
Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Now we try to go the other way around. Make it softer.
Oh, like extremely soft, kind of like this, like almost like an ASMR voice,
Give that a try.
From the thick one, or
From the normal one.
okay. Oh.
Nice. Okay, you got so quiet that your mic stopped
Oh.
picking you up.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no, it's great, right?
Something around here, maybe?
Oh, that's a good point. Can you quickly check on your audio settings if your noise suppression is turned on or off?
Oh, it is turned off.
It is turned off. Is the mic activation threshold all the way to the left to 0%?
It is correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so maybe it's your mic doing shenanigans. Okay, good. All I need you to do is kind of like hold onto that feeling of that softer voice. And now we try to go up in pitch very slowly, very gently, kind of like this. Trying to maintain that same softness all across our range. Give it a try. Awesome! What a range! Oh, okay, great. So, now that you've done this, let us go back to the fem voice that you've shown me. Can you reset to it? Kind of like just think about it, go for it? Or do you like
Alright.
do some exercises to set it up? Yeah, take your time.
Vocal fold closure. You
Good.
see how it kind of still has that
It's okay,
sound.
it's okay. Vocal fold closure. Okay, cool. So like from there, right? Let us take a pitch that's a little bit higher. Vo, vo, vo.
Vo, vo, vo.
Right? Vocal fold closure.
Vocal fold closure.
Okay, great. Now I think that you're not as bright as you were at the very, very start with the buzzy voice that you showed me. So let us try and take Pat That Cat, but start dark.
Oh, pat that cat.
Yeah?
Pat that
Give it a-
cat.
Awesome. Now,
Pat.
pat, pat,
Pat. 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 Pat.
awesome. And now try this. Pa, Pat that cat.
Pat that cat.
Okay, good. Pat that cat. So now we're back to where we were before, right? Bright voice, but a little bit too buzzy. So you have this. Pat that cat. Do it again.
Pat that cat.
Okay, good. Now what you want to do is take that same ah sound, pat, but make it slowly more gentle. Think like different breathing, you know? Either you breathe out like all of your air at once, or you breathe out like very, very slowly, right? So breathing slowly out allows you to control a little bit better how you use your voice. And now again, you're going to think about this way, right? You can do pat that cat like pat that cat, in which case you're pushing a lot of air and your vocal folds are fighting against that air and doing this pat that cat, like in a more thick pattern, pat that cat, right? Now you want it to push less air, right? And have pat that cat. Give it a try.
Pat that cat.
Okay, good. Pat that. Oh. Do, 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 do. So, okay, great. So, do we already hear a difference here? Pat that cat. Pat that cat. Try to do the two side by side.
Pat that cat. Pat that cat.
Okay, so it's
Pat
not
that
as...
cat.
Ah, that's better. Good. Pat that cat. Okay, good. Very good. So now, this is kind of like where the challenge happens, right? Like you have to juggle with a lot of things, right? Having a bright voice with a small space, having like a high pitch, right? And having softer vocal folds. You have experienced softness with with like this really gentle slide, right? But you also need to keep that feeling whilst you go into fem voice. So two ways to go about this. Either go for high pitch being soft, and then try to set up the resonance. Or you can try the other way around, starting with your fem voice as already is, with a bit more buzzy sound, vocal fold closure, and then try to make that softer. Vocal fold closure, right? So you can try and
So-
work these two ways. Yeah.
So, like, let's say analogy, voice acting terms, I'd be basically speaking as a small, tiny character that doesn't want to wake a baby up at night. So
Yes,
they're using
the
a
small
small
character.
voice,
Yes.
but soft.
Right. Like,
Okay.
basically,
Ah.
do you know, like, think like a little goblin from D&D, you know? Like, hey, we're gonna loot those humans, right? It's like a little creature really angry, right? So it's the small
Right.
space of a bright resonance, but it's also like kind of the aggressiveness because like they're like little evil creatures in most settings. But then you have this one goblin who decided to set up shop in town, and he's like, hello, yeah, I just sell some things, you know, like he has left that buzziness because he's not aggressive, right? So he's kind of like softer. So like think like that little goblin vendor. Like he does have a small body, but he doesn't feel, so he's kind of like chill about life. So yeah, that's the idea. Don't try to wake up the dragon. Sure.
All right.
That works too. All right.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Nelloy. Or Cravert. Oh, I don't know which one to read when I see two
Oh,
words.
it's all good.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, collaborative practice, you already have like a very solid basis. Like you got a really bright sound. I think it's kind of like coupling that brightness with that softness that will be most of the challenge. So do practice what I gave you today for exercises.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you'll get there in no time. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Applause for Kravitz.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So, that being said and done, do we have any questions from the Twitch stream or from the Discord? I don't see Shay here, so... Or maybe I'm
I'll
missing...
step in. I don't...
You'll
I
step
don't
in? Okay.
see any on either...
No questions? I answered so much today, I guess.
Other than have you hidden eggs around the academy since you're a bunny? And it's Easter?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'll let you find out for yourself. So, no, I have not hidden any eggs. You're right, it is Easter. Happy Easter, everyone. I did not put bunny ears for this event. That's just what I do.
I think we have a question.
We have a question.
Muted
Okay.
Softy over here.
All right. Muted Softy, what's your question about?
They're typing it. I don't know if you
How
can see their
can
text
you
box.
get an appointment for one? Oh, you can get lessons alone. How can you get an appointment for a lesson?
You can message me on Discord at SavvySav, just like my name above my head. Exactly the same. So yeah, I was gonna talk about this at the end of the lesson. I just wanted to answer questions first. So I don't know if Muted wrote something, but I didn't see it.
He said yes.
Okay. So no questions from people. Oh, here. Okay, Poofy-tastic. What's your question about?
Hello.
Okay, I have so many questions. Okay. I'll take 3 questions. All right. So go ahead.
Okay. So we were talking a lot about vocal fold mass today. And can you demonstrate the difference between a full sound versus a nasal sound?
Okay. So nasality. Let's talk about nasality really quickly. Okay. So those can sound very similar, right? Like
A really buzzy sound due to vocal fold mass increase versus a really nasal sound, which sounds like you're speaking through the nose, right?
they can sound very similar because a lot more often than not, they're kind of coupled together. Nasality achieves that buzziness, that cartoonish sound for a different reason. It's because at the back of our mouth here, we have something that we call the velum, okay? And when you close the velum, well, you just have a, e, o, so just normal vowels. If you lower it and, close your mouth, for example, like on an M sound, it's just a nasal sound. But in the case of a nasal voice, you have this happen, right?
You have the sound come both out of the nose and out of the mouth, which creates this more nasal sound. In some cases, if your voice is softer, it doesn't sound that much. But if you have a bit of vocal mass, it can sound very, very buzzy. Think like Villager from Minecraft. Right? Right? They have this really thick voice. Actually, think more like Illager, right? Like the evil ones. Right? They have this really thick voice.
And that's basically due to the fact that the velum is kind of closing a little bit more at the back. And so it's creating a constriction. And that constriction is the result for nasality, or at least for those buzzy nasal sounds. Nasality is not always buzzy. It can be buzzy, but we often tend to conflate the two, so I can see where the confusion comes from. So I guess I can read you 2 sentences. I don't know,
that mad brat sat on that flat mat.
Versus,
that mad brat sat on that flat mat.
and they sound very different. Actually, I think you can hear that it's no longer an ah sound, but an sound. Ah. If you're French, you might notice that this sound is, a nasal sound that is used in French, typically. But yeah, and are the same. So I hope that helps. I hope that you heard the demonstration and that you kind of know the difference a little bit better now. Okay, I think you had a question, CO? If I say that name correctly.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, you're okay. I have a bit of an issue trying to manage on keeping my I have an issue with trying to get my voice to stay at a higher tone or pitch for like after a while, and at the same time, sometimes I have to feel at the practice hitting high notes just to keep it in line. So I'm not sure if there's an easier way to keep it consistently like at a high tone, or at least a high enough tone to be comfortable with. Because I keep having breaks in my voice when I hit the high notes.
Well, you might want to practice like SOVTEs, softies, or VFEs, so like vocal function exercises. You know, the ones that I did at the very start. They're used for warm-up, but they can also help you reach higher pitches and get better at those higher pitches if you do struggle with those. So like if you maybe do something like and your voice cuts there, right? You might try something like and trying to like nudge up there with that more relaxed sound. It might be a bit more difficult because like you're creating that counter pressure to your lungs, but your vocal folds will thank you, right? They will be in a more gentle environment, has less pressure. So you can try and do that to practice higher pitches. And once you've practiced those higher pitches, speaking at higher pitches should become much more easy. All right?
Thank you. That helps.
You're welcome. No worries. So, do we have anyone else who had a question? No more question. Yes, 6-ear macaque. I don't know how to say this word. I give up.
Just
yes,
call me macaque. That's fine.
Gotcha.
I wanted to
Great.
ask: is it okay for people to practice early hours in the morning, like as they get up? So when they're brushing their teeth and they see themselves in the mirror, can they practice doing vocalizations then?
Yes, but first drink water 15 minutes before practicing. And do some gentle warm-ups as you wait for the hydration to hit the vocal folds, right? In the morning, you're dealing with mucus, or more like thick mucus. We always have mucus in our throat to kind of help the vocal folds vibrate, right? But in the morning, that tends to be really dry as you get very dehydrated in your sleep, right? So make sure to drink water and you can work on your voice at any time of the day, right? So don't worry. Just respect the 15-minute rule and drinking water and warm up your voice a little bit before jumping into practice. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's all the questions answered, I reckon. Or at least the ones that I have the time to answer, since I don't want to hold the staff here too long. So I'll do the end of the lesson blurble. The end of the workshop is now. Hey, everyone, my name is Savvy. I teach voice feminization and voice
masculinization.
I also teach stuff such as human beatboxing with sounds such as... If you're interested in learning any of this, you can always hit me up on Discord at SavvySav, the exact same name that I have above my head. I also have a Discord server in which I do public lessons. So you can come in and join in and listen in whenever there is one. So that's for free. You can go there. It's discord.gg/smalldbwr and the server is called Scientifically Augmented Voice. I hope you'll come over there and scientifically augment your voice. God, that was cheesy. Anyhow, I do offer public and private lessons. If you want to learn about that, do hit me up in DMs and you can have more information there. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me in DMs or on the Discord server of the Trans Academy, of course. The voice #voice training text channel is there for that. So I hope you all have or had a wonderful Easter. I know mine was amazing and it ended well with all of this session. So thank you for being here and I'll be catching you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.